I'm going to start this off with a disclaimer. I absolutely love Mewgenics. It's the most fun I've had with a roguelike since Balatro crippled my ability to get any animation work done within a reasonable time frame.
Stop! It's all gone! They've taken it all!
It plays very similar to RPG games like Fire Emblem and Pokemon Conquest, another game I have an embarrassing amount of hours in. And it's a wonderfully grotesque, oftentimes infuriatingly difficult game, which makes it all the more rewarding to successfully complete a run. For those of you who haven't played it, in Mugenics, you take control of a party of up to 4 of your feline friends, assign them a variety of classes and equipment, and then stab, blast, pierce, punch, and poop your way through a variety of themed dungeons.
That is one big pile of shit.
Each area has several combat encounters, random events that can be either helpful or detrimental, a mini-boss, and a final boss you need to defeat before moving on to the next area. You'll start off in the alley, which, after beating, you'll have a branching option path to continue to either the sewers or the junkyard. Beat either of those, and there's a third, extra challenging area to complete before making your way back home with your spoils of war. But with that brief introduction out of the way, let's take a closer look at the bosses of Mugenics. More specifically, the focus of this video, Dybbuk is the final boss of the Boneyard, which you unlock after beating the alley and the junkyard. Now, like most video games, each boss in Mugenics has some kind of gimmick that you need to work around in order to defeat them. These range in complexity, from bosses like Queen Hippo just being big beefy units, to mini-bosses like Trampy, who has a random pool of moves that he draws from on each of his turns. These gimmicks, for the most part, are used as a way to educate the player and teach them what to prioritize. You need to carefully alter your strategy when going up against each boss as to not get your run absolutely decimated. For example, bosses like Mama Maggot and Johnny teach the player to prioritize the smaller enemies that spawn each round, otherwise you'll get quickly overrun. Bosses like Chubs and Nubs force the player to alter how they attack their enemies, as attacking them head-on will cause your cats to take serious damage in retaliation. Zodiac requires careful movement behind cover to expend all 6 of his shots from his 6-shooter before advancing up. Boris and Flushmaster have you using the terrain to your advantage and making sure you don't get pushed into sharp rocks. As for Dybbuk, well, he's just obnoxious. So what exactly does Dybbuk do that makes him the most annoying little shit I've ever encountered in a roguelike since The Plant? Well, Dybbuk is the embodiment of an Azorius Stacks player in Magic the Gathering, forcing the other players in the game to watch you play solitaire and not being able to do anything about it. His whole thing is that he dodges any attack that directly targets him by rolling out of the way Cole Cassidy style. Everything from melee attacks to arrows to magic missiles, he'll just moonwalk on out of there. Even attacks that specify they never miss don't even work, as technically those attacks simply are guaranteed to hit a specific tile, not the enemy on it. So Dybbuk will just Mick Cassidy on out of the way. Even backing him into a corner is only marginal of its effectiveness, because he'll just roll out of that tight squeeze to the other side of the map if he gets cornered for more than one turn. Dybbuk's second ability is his ability to spawn endless hordes of wisps to harass you. As if his Azorius-style gameplay wasn't obnoxious enough, Dybbuk decided he wanted to be a Nekuzar player as well and ping you to death. This one, while frustrating, is at least manageable if you have enough attackers, although even the wisps dodge one attack each turn. Even if you do manage to defeat him, however, after initially whittling down Dybbuk's health to 0, instead of dying, he pulls a Clove from Valorant and comes back like he never left. Except this time, he possesses the cat that killed him, forcing the rest of your team to target their former ally to knock him out of them. And you can bet your sweet Bippy he'll abuse every single spell slot you have on that unit. After you defeat your possessed cat, who gets downed by the way, you don't get them back at 1 health or anything, Dybbuk, being the little shit that he is, pops back out of the corpse with 1 remaining HP, to finish off once and for all. So you better hope that your unit he just possessed, and subsequently killed in the process, didn't have the only means of working around his dodging. So, now that I've complained about him for 4 minutes, how about I back that up with a source?
My source is that I made it
The issue with Dybbuk is that he is the only boss fight in the entire game that demands the player have a very specific set of attacks and abilities on their units to even stand a chance at winning the fight. At a surface level, there's really 4 main ways to defeat Dybbuk. Number 1, have some sort of way to immobilize him, i.e. bear traps so that he can't dodge. Number 2, have an area of effect attack that targets a wide area, so even if he rolls out of the way, he'll still be in the line of fire and roll into the damage effect. Number 3, inflict him with status effects like bleed or poison, if you can even hit him. And 4, pick a god and pray. The gimmick of every single other boss in the game forces the player to adapt their strategy in order to defeat them. Attacking from different angles, altering movement patterns, prioritizing different objects or smaller enemies on the battlefield, You don't need to have specific builds in place ahead of time to beat them. Just a strategic mindset to play to your enemy's weakness and exploit it. If you lose, that's largely on you and the decisions that you made during the fight. Certain attacks and spells make certain bosses easier, of course. The Moon, for example, is a walk in the park with the Eat Rocks attack, but these are nice bonuses to have, not necessities. Dybbuk's boss fight punishes the players for not having certain builds on their units. If you don't have an area of effect attacker, trapping ability, or some other way to splash tiles, you're just screwed. Now, some people might argue that this is just a skill issue, but the fact that these attacks are practically required to beat him is where the problem lies. Entire teams that, up until this point, have had entirely valid compositions suddenly become invalidated simply because the player didn't have any prior knowledge about what to expect ahead of time. Enemies like this aren't rewarding or fun to defeat, they're just obnoxious, especially when you've sunk an hour and a half into your run. Now, credit where it's due, Mugenics is definitely not the only game to use this style of boss design. The classic tower defense icon Kingdom Rush, my goat, uses the same gimmick to make certain enemies immune to certain strategies in order to punish players who heavily rely on certain mechanics. Balatro, for a more modern example, also does this with boss blinds, with a number of key blinds effectively giving you no chance to continue the run if you run into them with certain builds. And I would give Mugenics a similar pass on this if it weren't for two detracting details. Firstly, runs in Mugenics are not 20 or 30 minutes like Balatro or Kingdom Rush, or have some kind of HP system. They're at least an hour and a half affair that you already have to endure 2 prior areas to even get the chance to fight Dybbuk. And secondly, the abilities you get on certain cats are entirely based on RNG. Even if you fought Dybbuk before and know exactly what you're up against, you can just get plain unlucky with your rolls and not get any useful abilities that would help you. Granted, the likelihood of a player not having a single AoE attack, or at least a multi-hit attack by this point in the run is slim, but certainly not zero. Even if they did manage to bring an AoE attack like Surf or Blizzard, dealing 3 or 5 damage at a time against a boss with 85 health is not going to go well, especially once exhaustion starts kicking in and you start taking unavoidable damage, as Dybbuk specializes in doing what any Lucio player is great at doing: stalling. Also, was the possession stage really necessary? He's the only boss to have this kind of posthumous phase, and honestly, it's just more obnoxious than it needs to be. What compelled them to add even more annoying things to the already most obnoxious boss in the game? Yeah. Stop hitting yourself, my ass. Yeah. No. This is very satisfying to watch. So, why is Dybbuk objectively bad boss design? It's because he sucks. Them kitty bones goes hard though. Thank you, Ridiculon. Happy April Fools!